Hey everyone, Dave here. Um, it's a nice Sunday afternoon, and I wanted to make a really quick video going through how to port dynamic music sound banks into Semaphore playlists. I found over time since I originally published Semaphore, a lot of people have had trouble constructing playlists for it, and they find it really difficult. And one of the first things that they always tell me is, hey, man, I'm not a Lua scripter person like you are. I'm not smart, quote unquote. I can't figure out the documentation, so on and so forth. People find it very difficult to make playlists for this mod. And that's something that I find very disappointing because it was never really meant to be that way. But I'm not very good at making text documentation like most programmers, and personally, text documentation doesn't really work for me. I hear a lot of people these days are generally always requesting videos for how to mod this, how to do that. I've seen a bunch of people request intros to Lua scripting as well, and so this video will hopefully be a little bit of all of those things. I'm going to teach you guys a little bit about my coding setup, how I work day to day. You'll learn a little bit about the basics of how to get a playlist set up or an editor set up that is very easy to make Semaphore playlists with, and hopefully get some of the basics of Lua syntax. If you don't know how to write Lua scripts, if you don't know what a .lua file is, if you've never done any of this before, I want you to watch this video, and we'll make something interesting together. You can do this, and I'm going to prove it to you by doing it with you, right? So I've cheated just a little bit. I've already got my editor open and ready to go. I have ported at least one of these playlists, so I do remember what we're doing and how that process is going to happen. But the rest we are going to make on video together. One thing I do want to point out before we actually get into it. It is really, really, really helpful and useful to have auto completions, editor support, all that kind of thing when you are making these playlists. It will make your life a lot simpler. You won't have to tab back and forth between my webpage and your editor in order to figure out what is going on. So I am going to consider it a prerequisite of this video that you have some kind of good code editor set up and that you have a Lua language server installed. I understand that you probably, if you're my target audience, you probably don't know what your favorite code editor would be. Maybe when I say the words Lua language server, that's a alien language to you. So what I'm going to recommend to you, if you don't have a better answer, go download VS Code, go download the Sumnico Lua language server extension, and that is the prerequisite to get started in this video. I'd like for you to do that before we go any further, and you make your own playlist, because I promise it will make your life easier. Now, if you already have your editor set up, or you've gone and done that and come back to this video, the first thing that you need to know about is a file called .luarc.json, okay? This is what is going to tell your editor how the auto completions and everything work. And all you have to do is create a JSON file. I'll include this text in the description of this video so that you have an example to go off of. You tell it where the Lua files are under runtime path, and then you do it under workspace.library as well. For playlist creators, this is the important one. Actually, you really only need this. That's all you actually need, okay? It's just 5 lines of text. You can do it. Now, I'll show you real quick my full one. This is what I actually work with on a day-to-day basis, right? This is all my stuff. Actually, it went a little bit too far there. Oh my. Yeah, here we go. This is where I actually meant for it to be, right? So when you have a more advanced setup, this is what your stuff might start to look like. But don't worry about that too much for now. Just keep workspace.library in mind. And if you're making Semaphore playlists, make sure that you point to the folder that has all of my Lua files in it. It's very simple. It's very easy. If you have questions, please hit me up in wherever you can get a hold of me, including the comments, right? So now here's the important part. We actually have a dynamic music playlist opened. My editor's already complaining to me about stuff, okay? So the first thing that we want to do is we want to give it a script context for codecs. And we do that by doing dash 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 @omw dash context player. Every S3maphore playlist is going to look like this. All of them. It's very easy, right? Then for a playlist, we'll also do @module doc.playlist env, okay? So this is really important because this is what is going to tell the editor that this specific file right here that we are working inside of is a S3maphore playlist, and it will unlock all of your auto completions. I'll show exactly what that means here in just a second, right? So you can see we have one Soundbank here. There's a list of cell names. There's tracks. There's also combat tracks, okay? So this is going to get turned into two playlists right here. And the first thing that I'm going to do is make our match table. And this is going to be @type cell match patterns. And then I'm going to do local Felks Ool names. The actual name doesn't matter, right? This is just name it something you can keep track of. This is around someplace called Felks Ool, so I'm calling it Felks Ool names. Don't make it complicated, right? And now it's saying, okay, we're missing the disallowed and allowed fields, right? Well, this doesn't have any disallowed fields, right? It's just a list of places that it should play. So, bam, we're already done. Now, we already have this list over here, right? Makes perfect sense. So instead, we're just going to change this name to allowed. I'm going to yeet it out of the sound bank here. Boom. So now we've made a good set of match patterns that both of our playlist rules are going to be able to work with. So this is going to be really sweet. So we've got two playlists. One's combat, one's non-combat. They're both the same thing. So we need two rule functions. And we're going to say local Felks Ool explore rule. Local function Felks Ool explore rule, rather. Hey, I'm not perfect. And we're going to return playback.state.is in combat. But it should be not playback.state.is in combat. And playback.rules.cell name match Felks Ool names, right? So this is the rule that drives our playlist. If this happens, we're going to run this playlist. And what is it that happens? Well, we are not in combat, and we are in a cell name matching this list up here. It's not super complicated. Now, there is one trick that tends to catch people out, and probably would have broken the original version of this playlist that I made. You got to lowercase everything. All of your names, all of your IDs, everything, make sure that they are always lowercase. Don't mess around with uppercasing anything, SpongeBob case, anything like that. It's always going to break if you uppercase any of your stuff. Just keep it lowercase for the convenience of everyone. It's not a bug in the mod, and I'm not going to change that either. So, we've got our explore rule. Now we want to do a combat rule. Well, this is basically the same thing, so I'm just going to copy that, and we'll say explore combat, boom. And now it just return playback.state.is in combat and playback.rules.cell name match Felks Ool names. So you can see it works pretty much exactly the same way. It just doesn't have not on it. The construction of S3maphore playlists is actually very human language based and as simple as I could hopefully make it. All you really need to know is that the playback table exists. And if you can remember that much, seriously, that will get you through the entire process. For example, let's say that I wanted to know if the player was underwater. We're going to have an underwater playlist. So I'm going to do playback.state, which is where anything that you might want to know about in the world can be found. Things like whether or not this area has combat targets in it, whether or not the cell has water, the name of the place that you're in, the name of the region you're in, the exact water level of the cell that you're in, or if I'm underwater. And hey, look, there's even a specific variable for whether or not we're exploring, which I remember implementing. See, it's been quite a while since I actually messed with this mod. Sorry. But regardless, playlists are very simple and easy to deal with. So, I construct my playlists a lot differently than dynamic music soundbanks, though, and that's an important distinction to keep in mind. This is not what it's going to look like. So, instead, we're going to do a new type annotation, and this is going to be a S3maphore playlist array. And these little brackets right here, they're brackets because they're square, okay? Braces are curly. These are brackets. Anyway, the brackets mean that there is more than one playlist in here. So we're going to return a table, and this is one playlist right here. It needs an ID, and I'll call it Death and Taxes Explore. And we'll say, I'm just going to copy it out of the original data structure, right? Now the tracks themselves do not need to be lowercase. I sort of just do that for convenience. All right. So we have the ID of the playlist. We have the list of tracks that they're going to play, and the exact priority of the playlist, which we haven't done yet, but this will be really easy. The priorities are set according to where you're actually at. So it's going to be playlist priority dot cell match. And this is just kind of a convention I do, right? The priority of the playlist usually corresponds to the exact rule that you use. So there's battle mod, there's battle vanilla, which is lower priority than modded battle playlists. There's cell exact, which is a much higher priority than matching cells, which is a higher priority than city, which is way lower priority than class. There are a bunch of different ones that we can work with in here, but this one is straightforwardly a cell match. Don't worry too much about the semantics. Now you can see these two playlists, they're really, really common, right? So actually all I'm even going to bother to do is just copy this, and we're going to go over, get rid of explore, replace that with combat, and we're going to change the priority to battle mod, and we're almost done. But I did forget the most important thing is setting the rule. That's the is valid callback field, the function used to determine whether or not a playlist should execute on this particular frame. Note, this field is only optional in the event that the playlist priority is not playlist priority.never. So the annotations kind of suck here. You do need this. This should always be here, pretty much, but just in case. We set that to the function that we made, and whenever this returns true for all three of, well, both of the two rules that we set, we're exploring, and we're in a cell that matches one of those names, it's going to return true and play this playlist, unless something higher priority overrides it, like this. Now, since these are special-ish locational playlists, I want to bump the priority down a little bit. This way, the Death and Taxes playlists are going to be really likely to override anything else that's in your load order. I just picked 10 as a random arbitrary number. It doesn't really matter. Folks, combat, and we do the same thing for the combat rule, and now we're done. That was that, right? So we have 4 more of these files to port over, and it's all going to be a very straightforward process like this. And in fact, the way that I usually ship my playlists is just to put them all in one big file. So that's what we're going to do. Unfortunately, the way that these ones are set up is really super simple. And it's going to be a lot of busy work from here, right? We're just going to be copying and pasting the same things. Yeah, you know what? I don't want to do cell matches for this. In fact, I'll tell you what. I think I have a better idea, because these are name matches, right? So I'll have to ask the author of Death and Taxes about this, but I think we can just do this. That should be valid, actually. That should work. I'll ask the author about that, and we'll see what we can do. This, though, this seems like it would be a cell name exact rule, which would make it faster and higher priority than the other playlists. So let's try that. What is the ID presence map? Yeah. Local deadland cells. We'll make a new table, and it's going to be called that. Deadlands, the bastard's throne, equals true. Boom. That's that. Get rid of the empty lines. And this is really only one track. It's the exact same list of tracks, actually. So we do have a Explore and Combat playlist. Okay. Let's do it like this. Oh, no, I needed to copy 4 lines. Ah. And all we really have to do in order to make this one work right is just replace the names of the variables. And importantly, we're going to change the rule as well, because this is going to be a cell name exact. And hopefully the reason that we're doing it this way is very obvious, right? We are in combat, and we're in this exact area. There's not really a whole lot to this. So now the last thing that we need is the actual playlists. So, all right, we're going to do bam, bam. And we'll keep the separate, we'll keep the combat and explore playlists arranged separately. Oh, are these both Deadlands explorable? Yeah. Oopsie. But you can see, right, like the biggest mistake that you're likely to make here is actually just in screwing up the boilerplate. Deadlands explore rule. Copy our list of tracks. It would really help if we put it in the right place, though. That's super important. And maybe I could arrange these a little bit more optimally, right? Like we're repeating the same list of tracks over and over again. So I could put the list of tracks further up and save it into a local variable to be a little bit more optimal about it, but who cares, really? You don't need to do that for this. So we're done with that one. That was surprisingly easy, right? It happened very quickly. We pretty much went through the whole thing. This one strikes me as interesting, like right off the jump, because they really don't look like... I fucked up the cell names again. Anyway, these look like cell name exact rules to me as well. So we're going to go ahead and just do that. Right. And let's call it local pinnacle cells. Boom. And then delete 4 lines. Right. And just for the hell of it, I think I'm probably going to go ahead and start pinnacle tracks. Because, I mean, really, if you look at it, these are... We're going to be copying a lot of the same information here, back and forth and back and forth. So just get rid of all this, copy this over, no, not there. And again, because this is an exact cell name rule, we're going to do an ID presence map. It's already happy with that. I'm not going to bother doing a type annotation there. Local function pinnacle explore rule. Return playback.state.is exploring and playback.rules.cell name exact pinnacle cells. Boom. All right. Boom. Is in combat. So here's our rule, here's our tracks, almost everything that we need. And because I've brought it up to a local variable, pinnacle tracks, cell exact, did I do? I did, so I should change the priority on the Deadlands playlist because they are cell exact now. So then we need to update the name. It's going to be pinnacle. Pinnacle explore rule, cell exact pinnacle tracks. Cool. So we clean this up a little bit. Combat pinnacle. Pinnacle combat rule. Battle mob -10. Boom. So now there's our pinnacle tracks. Awesome. Now, here's an interesting one. Dealing with this is going to be very slightly advanced, and I don't really want to get into this on video. But check out the end result in the Death and Taxes mod that mod update that is probably about to come after this video releases. So we're just going to skip this for now because I don't want to deal with this. This one's really easy. This is going to be very simple. So this looks like this is some kind of a special playlist, right? Death and Taxes After Party. Interesting. Okay, well, local after party matches. Well, nah. So I'll just take this and make it the whole damn playlist, right? Death and Taxes special after party. Priority. No. Priority equals playlist priority dot special. That's 5. And I'm going to bump that one down real low just to make sure that it's a thing. Is valid call. I'm going to start inlining these functions because now it's annoying me. Right. Return playback.state.is exploring and playback.rules.cellName exact after party cell. And yeah, here's the whole playlist. So we're going to add our type annotation, ID presence map. That's not necessary for anything to work, by the way. It's just helpful for you and the editor. So let's put those over here now. And here's our playlist. Boom. And you'll see, just like I did on these other battle playlists right here, I did a battle mod, or I did a special -5 in order to decrement the priority a little bit. That way, you'll override the default semaphore playlists and probably everybody else's, basically. Please be careful about screwing with my priority enums, because you're going to fuck my shit up if you do that. And we're pretty much already done. So this is all the exact same thing, right? And this will make our lives very easy. Because instead of giving a list, we're going to give a hash set. Woo! And the reason that we are enclosing these in braces is so that they end up in the left side of the table. And that makes them what is called keys of the table, right? If you look at all the information that's laid out here between these curly braces, right, we have a bunch of pairs of things, right? So here's the key, and here's the value. The key is the left side, the value is the right side. So we're just making a table. This is not anything fancy. Ooh. And this is called 5000 DAT Super Boss. So I'm going to assume that these are the names of some specific boss enemies that you're supposed to fight in D&T. Haven't played the mod, unfortunately. I don't have much time to play mods. This is also going to be an ID presence map. And yeah, that's almost it. That's almost pretty much the whole thing. This does look like it is I guess it's a combat playlist. But it just seems a little special. Alright, so we've made our new playlist. ID is Death and Taxes Combat Boss. Priority will be playlist priority.battlemod -11, so that this will override our other battle playlists we just made, because I don't actually know what areas you're going to be in when you're fighting these specific enemies. You could be anywhere. And then finally we need our isValid callback, which is going to be a function, and all it's going to check is playback.state.is in combat. We're in a fight with playback.rules.combat target exact boss names. And it's mad at us because it did not expect this expression. We just kind of threw it here in the middle of everything. Get a little comma in there. copy this over. And finally, we just have to bring this in here. And that's all of our playlists. Except that I forgot to lowercase a couple things. Wait. Alright, now that's all of our playlists, right? So we just ported the entirety of Death and Taxes off of Dynamic Music, I forgot the damn thing's name, over to S3maphore. We've got it all in a nice, well-organized single file. It's probably more optimized than it was when we started, and I hope that you learned just the slightest bit about making Lua scripts, about making S3maphore playlists, and if I've done anything to make the ecosystem more accessible for you here today, please like, comment, subscribe. Show your modder friends that don't know how to use S3maphore, and leave a comment telling me how I could explain this better next time. Have a good day, guys.